Before this video starts, please note that everything said in this video could change in the future, as this is a live service game and patches made after this video's release date could alter or revert changes and features. This also includes Pokemon spawn locations and the amount of Pokemon available. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you all enjoy the video. Hi everyone! This video is an extension of one of my previous videos, the Collector 3 and Mossy Cave video. Pretty recently, your Pokedex total has become something of a necessity in order to access a lot of areas in PokeNexus. At least more than it already was. Because of the implementation of new dex requirements for legendary Pokemon, as well as the requirement to access certain areas during events, lots of players want to know the easiest way to get to 600 dex so that these areas are accessible to them. In this video, we will just be going over the steps you need to take in order to get 600 dex in the easiest possible manner. So I won't be going over any strategies for the new legendary areas or End's Castle, as I feel that those topics need to be detailed in their own separate video in the future. Also, I think this goes without saying that the Collector 4 achievement is hit at 500 dex and you'll get the castle key, so this is technically also a Collector 4 guide with extra steps. So come along with me and I'll show you how to get to 600 dex in the most time efficient way. Unlike the Collector 3 video, I want to keep this intro as brief as possible. I already went over pretty much all of the tips, problems, and other notes that you need to know about dexing in the Collector 3 video. Pretty much all of those tips and problems still apply to this video, so please go check that out if you want some tips on how to increase your dex total. However, for this video, I'm going to assume that if you're watching this, you've already beaten the game and have some access to some endgame areas, including Mossy Cave. If you have not seen that video, I recommend you go watch that first because we're going to start right where that video left off. Aside from a few things. Since that video was released, all of the Pokemon belonging to Generation 7 have been added to the game and can give you a pretty significant boost to your dex, since a lot of them are fairly common. In addition to that, some Pokemon have had their spawns changed to the point in which they are no longer available in certain areas, so I'll be going over those again for your convenience. For those reasons, I'm going to be starting this video at a total of 328 to account for the spawn changes between videos. Everything else still applies as it was in the Collector 3 video. So here's how this video is going to be structured. Since we're assuming that you're already at the end of the game, I will be placing no restrictions on this video. This means that I'll be going over areas that are otherwise inaccessible unless you pay an entry fee like the Safari Zones or Altering Cave, as well as other normally locked areas such as Ancient Cave and Mossy Cave. This also opens up the possibility of rolling certain Pokemon such as from the Battle Tower, Battle Queue, or Casino, which I will definitely be taking advantage of. As you probably already know if you've watched my Collector 3 video, the easiest way to break up the catching is by rarity. So for example, we'll start with the commons, uncommons, and rares, go on to the very rares, and then make our way up from there. Once we're done with the very rares, we'll be doing a round of evolution stones, some relatively easy shop rolls, some swarm and event exclusives, then we'll hit the extremely rares and go from there. Once we do hit the extremely rares, and yes, we will have to catch some, I'll be taking into account swarm availability and the number of evolution stages. This is going to save you so much time as you'll get the most out of each catch. For ease of access, I'll first start with the extremely rares that are 3-stage evolutions, then move on to the 2-stage ones, and so on. I'll also be going over some non-ER special evolutions as well, such as Kingdra and Slowking. Also, I think it goes without saying that swarms are still busted even after the new changes. I'll be mentioning whether or not a specific Pokemon can spawn in a swarm so that you can better manage your time. If a swarm is active that has a Pokemon you're looking for, I recommend hunting it there as you'll get a pretty sizable increase to your encounter rate. I should also note that Alolan forms do not have a separate dex entry and will just count for the regular Pokemon's entry. So for example, if you catch an Alolan Meowth, it will just fill the regular Meowth dex entry. One more thing, there will be various resources and helpful information that I used to create this video down in the description. This also includes a spreadsheet that you can use to keep track of your Pokemon. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into dexing. First, let's start with the spawns that changed. I'm going to try to go through this pretty quick because a lot of this is just going to be Pokemon that were removed from one specific location but not another, so it's not going to change much. Caterpie and Weedle were removed from Route 2, but you can just go find them in Viridian Forest. Also, if you're confused about why the number is going up more than it should, it's because I'll be adding more to the total to account for their evolutions. Meowth was removed from Treasure Beach, but you can easily find it on Route 5. Venonat was removed from Route 43, but you can go catch it earlier on various Kanto routes, such as Route 12. Because the Cave of Origin is now locked to 100 fishing and 100 mining, you can instead go catch Shroomish on Unova Route 11 as a solo spawn. Psyduck was removed from Kanto Victory Road, but you can go catch it on 7 Island via fishing. Since the lowest floor of the Whirl Islands is now locked behind 600 decks, you can go catch Mantine on Route 41 via surfing. Dragon Spiral Tower is now also locked behind 600 decks, so you can go catch Houndour in Outcast Cave on 6 Island. Growlithe was removed on Route 7, but you can just catch it on Route 8. And finally, Igglybuff was removed from the regular Lost Meadows map, however it got moved to Lost Meadows East instead. Obviously, various other spawns have changed, making a plethora of Pokemon much easier to catch by making them solo spawns. However, it would take me forever to cover all of these, so I recommend doing your own research. The areas I listed in the Collector 3 video still work, but some of them aren't the fastest anymore. With all the spawn changes covered, we can now start on the commons, uncommons, and rares. We'll start with Rockruff, which can be caught as a rare in Mount Moon. Evolve it to get Lycanroc. On routes 24 and 25, we can catch Cutiefly and Grubbin. Evolve Cutiefly to Ribombee and Grubbin to Charjabug. Charjabug evolves with a Thunderstone, so we'll get to that later. On Route 5, you can catch Mudbray as a rare. Evolve it to get Mudsdale. On Route 6, we can catch Pikipek and Yungoos. Evolve Pikipek to Trumbeak and then Toucanon, and Yungoos to Gumshoos. On Route 9, you can catch Wishiwashi while surfing. On Route 7, you can catch Oricorio as a rare. Similarly, on Route 8, you can catch Stuffle as a rare. Evolve it to get Beware. Skipping ahead a bit, you can catch Crabrawler while surfing at Cinnabar Island. We won't be evolving it just yet, as it requires an item to evolve. Heading to the Sevi Islands, we can catch Sandygast at Treasure Beach on 1 island while surfing or fishing. Evolve it to get Palisand. Inside of Turtle Cove on 3 Island, we can catch Turtonator as a rare. And lastly, we'll be heading back to mainland Kanto for one more Pokemon. We can catch Fomantis as a rare in Deep Viridian Forest 2. Evolve it to get Lurantis. We end Kanto with a total of 373. Not too bad. Next is Johto. At National Park, you can catch Morlul. Evolve it to get Shiinotic. On Route 36, we'll be catching Furfrou as a rare. In the Lost Meadows, you can catch Comfey as a rare. Inside Toto Cave in the Lost Meadows, you can catch Wimpod as a rare. Evolve it to get Golisopod. Inside of Dragon's Den, you can catch Drampaw as a rare while fishing. In the main room of Mossy Cave, you can catch Sewaddle and Cottony as rares. Evolve Sewaddle to get Swadloon and Leavanny. We won't be getting Whimsicott yet, as it's a stone evolution. In Mossy Cave Water Cavern, you can catch Ducklet as an uncommon. Evolve it to get Swanna. You can also catch Pyukumuku here, however it's a solo spawn later in the game. And lastly, in Mossy Cave Thunder Cavern, you can catch Togedemaru and Dedenne as rares. We're ending Johto with 388 Pokemon. Let's move on to Hoenn. Zigzagoon can now finally be found outside of the Johto Safari Zone, so we can go catch it on Route 101. On Route 119, you can catch Komala as a rare on land, and Bruxish as a rare while fishing. And in Lily Cove City, you can catch Pyukumuku as a rare while fishing. Surprisingly enough, that's really all of the new Pokemon that have been added to Hoenn. Next is Sinnoh, which only has 2 Pokemon we'll be picking up. We're actually going to pick up Scraggy and Esper this time at both Deep New and Full Moon Islands respectively. Evolve them both to get Scrafty and Meowstic. I skipped over these two in the last video, but since I don't need to restrict areas anymore, I can list them here. And that's pretty much it for the commons, uncommons, and rares. Our total ends just shy of 400 at 396. Next are the very rares. We've only got 2 in Kanto, which are Oranguru and Pissimian, which can both be found in Berry Forest. Next is Johto, and we can catch Dewpider in Toto Cave. Evolve it to get Araquanid. In Lettuce Cave, you can catch Bounsweet. Evolve it into Steenie and Zarina. I do also want to note the fact that you can catch Wynot in the Johto Safari Zone Peak area, however, I still recommend catching this during a swarm since it will be much easier. But for now, we'll add it to the total since it's always accessible here. In Mossy Cave Water Cavern, you can catch Clauncher and Mantike. Evolve Clauncher to get Clawitzer. That's it for Johto, so next is Hoenn, and the only new Pokemon you can get is Frillish from the Hoenn Safari Zone. Evolve it to get Jellicent. And that's it for the very rares. No, I'm being serious, I was pretty thorough in my last video, so there's literally 0 very rares for us to catch. Hey guys, this is Andrew editing this. That's not entirely true. I just completely forgot that Carbink existed. So it's there. But I mean, can you blame me? If you do want to hunt Carbink, however, all I have to say is good fucking luck. Anyways, I just wanted to throw this little footnote in here. Back to the video. So in terms of relatively easy to hunt Pokemon, we're completely done with them. Kind of, because we'll now be moving on to the event and swarm exclusives. But first, let's take care of some evolution stones. The only Pokemon we'll need to evolve are Cottony and Charjabug, so we'll need 1 Sunstone and 1 Thunderstone in order to evolve Cottony into Whimsicott, and Charjabug to Vikavolt. However, because this video is for endgame players, and since there aren't any restrictions, we'll go ahead and take care of the evolutions that require specific items. So for example, Pokemon that evolve with Coronet Rocks, King's Rocks, etc. This list will also account for the Pokemon that we couldn't evolve in the previous video. In order to evolve everything we have, we'll need 2 King's Rocks, 1 Dragon Scale, 1 Ice Rock, and 1 Magmarizer. Having these items allows us to evolve Poliwhirl to Politoed, Slowpoke to Slowking, Seadra to Kingdra, Crabrawler to Crabominable, and Magmar to Magmortar. Next are the Swarm and Event exclusives. If you've gotten this far in completing your Pokedex, you're bound to be committed to waiting a bit to get a certain Pokemon during a specific Swarm or event. We'll start with the events as I can go through those pretty quickly, so let's just start with Easter and go down the list. During the Easter event, you can catch Audino, Baneri, Bunnelby, and Minccino, all as rares. Evolve Bunnelby to Diggersby, Baneri to Lopunny through Friendship, and Minccino to Chinchino with a Shiny Stone. During the summer event, you can catch Petalil and Heatmore. Evolve Petalil with a Sunstone to get Lilligant. During the Halloween event, you can catch Joltik, Phantump, Pumpkaboo, and Yamask all as rares. Evolve Joltik to Galvantula, Phantump to Trevenant through trading, Pumpkaboo to Gourgeist through trading, and Yamask to Cofagrigus. And lastly, during the Christmas event, you can catch Cryogonal, Delibird, and Stantler as rares, and Bergmite, Cubchoo, and Vanillite as very rares. Evolve Bergmite to Avalugg, Cubchoo to Beartic, and Vanillite to Vanillish and Vanillux. Next are the Swarm exclusives, which are Pokemon that you can only find while a swarm is active. Swarms are definitely a lot more luck-based compared to other Pokemon since swarms are super limited in terms of time, but they happen often so you have a bit more of a chance to get the one you want, especially with the new Swarm rework. First are the rares. You can catch Pansage, Pansear, Panpour, Litleo, and Blitzel during swarms. Evolve Pansage to Simisage with a Leaf Stone, Pansear to Simisear with a Fire Stone, Panpour to Simipour with a Water Stone, Litleo to Pyroar, and Blitzel to Zebstrika. And then there's the very rares. Durant, Zorua, and Rufflet are all exclusive to swarms. I also recommend that you catch a Wynot during a swarm if you get the chance, but it's no longer a swarm exclusive. Evolve Zorua to Zoroark, and Rufflet to Braviary. That's pretty much it for right now, but we will definitely be coming back to use swarms to our advantage later. Next, I want to tackle a few more Pokemon that we can get before moving on to the extremely rares. And those are the ones that you can roll from prize shops, such as the Casino and Battle Tower shops. Unfortunately, we would have been able to roll a few more Pokemon from the PvP prize shop. However, they've since removed participation tokens from tournaments, so I just won't be covering the PvP shop in this video at all. Regardless of that, we can still get a few relatively easy Pokemon. I'm starting with the Casino first. I want to put a reasonable cap for the amount of tokens you'll need for each Pokemon, so any Pokemon higher than 30k tokens, I don't recommend getting. That being said, we can get Sableye for 3.5k tokens, 2 Ralts for 4k tokens each, Shuckle for 10k tokens, Badoo for 20k tokens, and Riolu for 30k tokens. In total, all of these Pokemon will cost you about 71,000 tokens. You can also roll a Slackoth if you want, but I'll be skipping it for this video. Evolve Ralts to Kirlia, then evolve one to Gardevoir and one to Gallade using a Dawnstone. Evolve Riolu to Lucario through Friendship, and evolve Badoo to Roselia through Friendship and Roserade with a Shiny Stone. Next is the Battle Tower shop, where we can buy Spritzee for 600 tokens and Bronzor for 1,000. Getting Bronzor here will save us from hunting it as an ER later. Evolve Spritzee to Aromatisse by using the Sachet, and evolve Bronzor to Bronzong. And lastly, and this might be a little bit of a tough one to get, but you can roll Type Null for 10,000 Philanthropist points at the shop in Saffron City. Evolve it through Friendship to get Silvally. You can skip this one if you want, because I honestly think the choice items are a better investment in the long term, but if you have nothing else to roll, you can pick this one up. That's pretty much it in terms of the Pokemon that I recommend rolling, though I do have some honorable mentions if you can get your hands on them. Sock, Throw, Volibite, and Mienfoo are all pretty cheap in the PvP shop if you're into that sort of thing, and you can pick up some early extremely rare Pokemon like Skarmory and Sneasel from the Battle Q shop. However, this will change in the future as they're planning to combine the PvP shops together into one big thing, so we'll see how that goes. And the last section is going to be the extremely rares. You knew it had to come to this. Extremely rares are some of the most tedious Pokemon to get, aside from legendaries of course, but outside of rolling something like a Pokemon box, getting some extra Pokemon from shops, or reviving a fossil, you're kind of out of options. To account for the fact that these will definitely take you some time, I'll be attempting to maximize the amount of dex entries that we get off of each Pokemon. This means I'll be starting with 3-stage evos first and working my way down. I'm also just going to avoid Pokemon that evolve with specific items as well, because those tend to be harder to get. Also, please note that you should be taking advantage of resources such as Swarms and Altering Cave in order to increase your chances of finding one. So let's start off strong. I recommend catching all of the starter Pokemon, as most of them are fairly accessible even outside of Swarms, and they're all 3-stage Pokemon. Obviously, Swarms are still the easiest, but if you're unlucky and aren't able to find them during a swarm, you can just go to their respective locations. Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle can be found in Deep Viridian Forest 2, the basement floor of Hellfire Cavern, and Turtle Cove respectively. Chikorita, Cyndaquil, and Totodile can all be found in their respective caverns in the Lost Meadows. Trico, Torchic, and Mudkip can all be found in the Hoenn Safari Zone, however Mudkip can also be found on 2 other Unova routes. I recommend just getting these 3 through Swarms. Turtwig, Chimchar, and Piplup can all be found in the Sinnoh Safari Zone. I also recommend just getting these 3 through Swarms. Snivy, Tepig, and Oshawott are Swarm exclusives, so you don't really have much of a choice here. Chespin, Fennekin, and Froakie can all be found in Mossy Cave Center, Mossy Cave Fire Cavern, and Mossy Cave Water Cavern respectively. And lastly, Rowlet, Litten, and Popplio can be found in the same 3 caverns as the Gen 6 starters. After catching all of them, evolve Bulbasaur to Ivysaur and Venusaur, Charmander to Charmeleon and Charizard, Squirtle to Wartortle and Blastoise, Chikorita to Bayleaf and Meganium, Cyndaquil to Quilava and Typhlosion, Totodile to Croconaw and Feraligatr, Treecko to Grovyle and Sceptile, Torchic to Combuskin and Blaziken, Mudkip to Marshtomp and Swampert, Turtwig to Grotle and Torterra, Chimchar to Monferno and Infernape, Piplup to Prinplup and Empoleon, Snivy to Servine and Serperior, Tepig to Pignite and Emboar, Oshawott to Duat and Samurott, Chespin to Quilladin and Chestnut, Fennekin to Braixen and Delphox, Froakie to Frogadier and Greninja, Rowlet to Dartrix and Decidueye, Litten to Torracat and Incineroar, and Popplio to Brionne and Primarina. By catching just the starters, which are pretty easily accessible via swarms, we've raised our dex total by a whopping 63 Pokemon. You'll also be given the Collector 4 achievement once you hit 500 caught, which gives you the castle key and an IV reset. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I won't be covering any teams for grinding in End's Castle because I think it would need its own separate video, but we will be taking a trip there quickly to catch an exclusive Pokemon. To get to End's Castle, you'll just need to head straight up through Unova Victory Road, taking the path you would normally if you were going up to the Elite Four. Once you get to this spot, however, instead of continuing up, you'll want to go down these stairs instead and enter this cave. Head down this cave, outside, back in, and you're at the entrance of End's Castle. Inside of End's Castle, there's a central room, the basement, and a secret path to the Water Temple. Take the stairs directly below the main door to reach the path to Water Temple. Follow my lead through the Abyssal Maze, and you'll reach the end. Once you reach the end, you'll need to have the Dive HM in order to surface into Water Temple. You can either have a Pokemon with the move in your team, or you can just pick up the HM from the casino for 5,000 tokens. Once you're inside Water Temple, you can catch Tympole while surfing as a rare. Yes, one of the exclusive Pokemon that you can only get post Collector 4 is a fucking Tympole. Evolve it to get Palpitoad and Seismitoad. Now let's continue on with the extremely rares. While we're talking about swarms, we might as well talk about Jangmo-O, which can either be found as a swarm exclusive or as a prize in the Battle Queue shop. Evolve it to get Hakamo-O and Como-O. Now we'll get into the actual extremely rares. At Mount Moon, you can catch Machop. Evolve it to get Machoke and trade it to get Machamp. On the first floor of the Seafoam Islands, you can catch Swinub. Evolve it to get Piloswine and Mamoswine. Skipping ahead to Johto, in the Johto Safari Swamp section, you can catch Bagon. Evolve it to get Shelgon and Salamence. Inside of Dragon's Den, you can catch Dratini. Evolve it to get Dragonair and Dragonite. In Mossy Cave Fire Cavern, you can catch Fletchling. Evolve it to get Fletchinder and Talonflame. Heading to Hoenn, while surfing or fishing in Shoal Cave, you can find Spheal. Evolve it into Celio and Walrein. Since we've already spent a bit of money on Safari Zones, we can also go into Altering Cave. Here we can catch Gible if it happens to spawn on that day. Evolve it to get Gabite and Garchomp. Next, we can catch Goomy in Ancient Cave R5. Evolve it to get Sliggoo and Goodra. We'll be heading to Sinnoh for one more Pokemon, where you can catch Solosis in the Sinnoh Safari Zone. Evolve it to get Duosion and Reuniclus. Heading to Unova, in the Dreamyard Lab, you can catch Litwick. Evolve it to Lampent and use a Duskstone to get Chandelure. Inside of Deep Relic Castle, you can catch Sandile. Evolve it to get Krokorok and Crocodile. And lastly, you can catch Dino in Unova Victory Road Grove. Evolve it to get Zweilous and Hydreigon. We only need 18 more Pokemon in order to reach our goal of 600, so we'll head on to the 2-stage extremely rares. I'm effectively counting Rhyhorn, Duskull, and Elekid as 2-stage Pokemon because they need a specific item in order to evolve. Since these items now have uses outside of evolving them, it might be hard to get your hands on these if you don't get a drop. Rhyhorn can be found in the Johto Safari Savannah, Elekid can be found on Route 205, and Duskull can be found at Mount Pyre entrance. Evolving all of these gets you Rhydon, Electabuzz, and Dusclops. Mareanie can be found as a swarm Pokemon, however can also be found while fishing in Ancient Cave R2. Evolve it to get Toxapex. Pancham can also be found as a Swarm exclusive. Evolve it to get Pangoro. Next, you can catch Numel in Cinder Cave in Ekritique City. Evolve it to get Camerupt. On Route 115, you can catch Swablu. Evolve it to get Altaria. In Shoal Cave, while land grinding, you can catch Snorunt. You can either evolve it to get Glalie or use a Dawnstone on it to get Frostlass. Whatever you evolve it into, it doesn't really matter. And finally, you can catch Skorupi in Castelia Sewers. Evolve it to get Drapion. And with that, you've hit your goal of 600 decks. You can now enter restricted event areas such as Frostbite Forest or Mythical Beach, and you can also enter most restricted legendary areas. These include Mewtwo, Hoenn Lugia, Rayquaza, Dialga, Palkia, Giratina, Arceus, Zekrom, and Reshiram. Again, those will be covered in their own separate video, which don't worry, another legendary guide is on the to-do list. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.